Welcome. You are now listening to the Better Agent Brand Podcast, where we help the modern real estate agent say goodbye to outdated marketing tactics and instead grow an authentic and magnetic personal brand that actually connects. And with that said, let's get into today's show. Taley, so happy to have you here today.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for having me. We met last year. I can't believe it's been a year.
I know.
We met at family reunion, Anaheim, walking down the street, and then you just basically kind of blew up. You spoke the next day at the conference, and that went great. Yeah, that went well. For everybody watching today, why don't we? I love what you're doing. I'm excited to share more of you with the world because I want more real estate agents to see you as an example. Maybe you could tell me a little bit about your story, not me, but mostly the viewers, a little bit about your story and. Both from the business end a little bit, and then also we can move into like the marketing end, which I'm sure kind of went hand in hand, especially social media wise.
Yeah, for sure. So I started real estate at the end of 2020, so almost 3 years now, and I started my career in a brand new city and state. So I had no local sphere or connections. My husband lived in the area, and so I knew him, but otherwise I didn't know anybody. I was pregnant with my now 2-year-old daughter, and this was in the middle of the pandemic. So people were not having open houses, they weren't door knocking, they weren't doing anything like that. So the only marketing that I felt like would be useful was social media marketing. So I had my very first closing in February 2021, and then that year I closed 28 units, and that was all from organic social media, non-paid ads, just advertising and marketing myself. And then the next year, which was last year, I sold 86 units. And then this year so far, we are at 114 year to date.
Amazing.
It's crazy.
And so, like, was the social media the only?
Yeah.
Wow.
So social media is the only lead generation activity that I do. I mean, I have a database full of people that I've grown. When I first started, I didn't have anybody in my database. I didn't know anybody, but now I've grown that database, through agent referrals and clients that I have. And so I stay in that and stay in contact with people. But the only lead generation that I do every day is creating and distributing content. So. And
I think that's awesome. Did you go into it with the lens of, because I know there's kind of like two thought processes, like, I think when agents hear lead generation, or the agents that I work with rather, they'll hear lead generation and they'll be like, okay, cool. So it's like Zillow leads, right? Like the first thing they think when they hear lead generation is I'm going to, like, it's a slot machine. Like I'm going to put,
calling.
or that, or like I'm going to put this dollar in and I'm going to get it out. Was that how you were thinking about social media? Or was the other school of thought seems to be like more, this is going to be a long-term thing. I'm going to build out trust. I'm going to build authority. I'm going to build a personal brand.
It was a long-term thing. I mean, so I know that social media typically isn't immediate, but I thought, well, if I can just put in the time and effort and be consistent, then eventually it will become my thing and people will find me there and hire me from there. I can create relationships that way. So, I didn't have any money to spend on paid leads or anything like that. So instead of spending the investment of dollars, I spent the investment of time and created content again and again and again consistently.
And I think what's cool about that is you are a new agent. So, I mean, a lot of the times when I'm talking to a new agent, it's hard for them to grasp that concept of being consistent on social because they're going, what can I talk about? I'm not an expert yet, right? How did you get over that hump?
Well, nobody knows you're not an expert. You know more than the person who doesn't have their real estate license.
That's true.
So you just kind of have to perpetuate what you do know. And you don't have to come up with a new topic all the time. You can repurpose your material. You can talk about the same thing in a lot of different ways. Social media isn't really about coming up with 1,000 things to say. It's coming up with a few things to say and 1,000 ways to say it.
It's a gem. That's a gem. Yeah. And so that was more like what you harped in on.
Yeah, definitely. So I will talk about the same things over and over because I'm talking to the same target audiences. And then I realized too that every single one of my followers doesn't see every single post. So it's not like I post 5 different things and maybe they're all the same thing and everybody thinks, why is she being so repetitive? A lot of people aren't seeing every post. So, I mean, you don't really run that risk of being boring.
Yeah.
Especially if you can repurpose it into a different message or a different type of message.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. Let me ask you a question. How have you ever, from the beginning, did you look at yourself as a personal brand? Let me start there. And what does that even mean for agent? I think when I say brand to an agent, they think like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not a brand. Like, I'm not Gucci. I'm not Nike. And I'm like,
but you are.
But you are.
Yeah. So I feel like as a real estate agent, you should really think of yourself as the CEO of a business, right? So I teach this a lot. When you think about Target, you think about, you know, the bullseye. When you think about Burger King, you think about the crown. When you think about Taley, you think about my brand. And so my brand is pink. I haven't always used pink, but for the majority of my career, I've always had pink signs, pink branding, pink marketing. I wear pink. I post everything in pink. And so I think your brand is about, one, what people see in you, and two, the message that you portray. Yeah. So for me as a real estate agent, I have this colorful, bright brand, and people associate the color with me very often, but I'm also the real estate agent who works with veterans. I'm also the Army spouse. I'm also the real estate agent that teaches other real estate agents. So from the very beginning, branding was very important to me. I wanted to be very consistent and polished while still being very authentic.
So it sounds like there's the visual element of things. And I think this is important because I think agents will sometimes be like, oh yeah, so Taley, she's pink, cool, I'm green, done, that's my brand. And it sounds like there's the visual end of it, and then there's the messaging.
Right, you know, you can't just be pretty. You have to know what you're talking about. You have to have a specific subject matter that you're the expert on, and even if you're not at first, you have to seem like you are. And I think a lot of people get nervous to be very targeted with their audiences and have a niche and have that social media expertise, but you can always pivot. So it doesn't have to be one thing all the time. But yeah, your content has to be valuable. It can't just look good.
Yeah, absolutely. That's super valuable. I feel like, was there a specific change? I guess, again, you started where you were thinking personal brand from the beginning. Right. And did you feel like other agents were talking about this as well at that time? Or you feel like, so how did you, how did you get that? I understand that the recession, the pandemic had you like, well, I just don't have a lot of avenues. I can't do in-person first-time home buyers courses. So like, had you been good on social media before?
Well, I have a public relations degree.
Okay.
So I have a mass communication degree with a concentration in PR and a master's in business. So I think a culmination of education and experience. I used to work in higher education, and I ran social media pages for the department that I worked in. But I mean, I'm 27, so I've had an Instagram as long as I've been breathing. Right. And so it just kind of came a little bit more natural. But not every part of it does. You know, I've really had to learn. As much as I know about PR and, you know, creating goodwill in the community with your brand and, you know, being the face of that, I've had to learn the analytics and metrics of social media too, but I feel like a lot of it is Googleable. Yeah. You know, you can figure it out.
Yeah. And so, oh man, so much I want to go to. We'll stay right there. Do you feel like agents just aren't taking the time to even do that Google, or does it just feel like overwhelming and it's like, or is it just like social media is for kids? I don't, you know.
I think it's a combination of people don't think it's worth their time. I think it is. Sometimes people are just lazy. And then I think that a lot of people just want it to be handed, right? Like they just want somebody to tell them exactly what to post, exactly when to post, exactly what hashtags to use. They just want it to be on a silver platter, when a lot of it, just like any other lead generation tactic, if you just were consistent and took the time to do your research and learn, it would come a lot easier. It's not easy at first. You know, it used to take me a long time to create content. Now I can pump out a video very fast because it's become second nature.
Yeah, I feel like that's a great point, because I think the hardest part is actually starting and realizing this isn't a Super Bowl ad. You don't have to knock this out. I think they're so fixated on like, everyone's gonna see this, and if it's not perfect, it's like, if you looked at it more of like, look, this is I like to say it's like you hired a trainer and you're going to the gym, you don't expect to have abs the next day. And he doesn't either. And neither does your parents or your family or your spouse. Right. You just telling them, hey, I started and I'm on a journey and I'm working through it, and we'll see what it's looking like in a month, right? Or 6 months.
Done is better than perfect.
Done is better than perfect. Yeah, I'm glad you're saying that, because and you probably didn't come off it. When you first started, was it like really weird at first?
Very weird. I was very nervous that people from my hometown would be like, what is she doing? She just got licensed yesterday. She doesn't know what she's talking about. If you scrolled all the way down to the end of my Instagram feed, it would be a little rough. Yeah, it would be a little rough. But, over time, you just become a little bit more aware and able to do better.
And I like to think that if you start building a system, because the system is not just you pushing and getting, I'm sure I actually want to talk about that next, is the system that you have. Because I feel like once the system is running, including you getting more comfortable, or any agent getting more comfortable speaking, or if you're having someone film you or whatever, or a podcast, whatever it's going to be, I feel like it starts to get easier. Is that true?
It does. Because practice makes perfect. Eventually I'm good at speaking on camera, and I can do it pretty fast, like for pre-recorded videos or things like that. But I haven't always been, and sometimes it takes 4 or 5 times recording yourself to get the right shot. So, previously when I started creating content, I had a newborn at home. And so while she was asleep, I would go grab like 5 different outfits and go to the extra room that we had, and I would create all these videos and use them for the entire week, because I didn't have a lot of time, so I just took the 2 hours that I did have while she was taking a nap to batch all this content. Now I'm not in that same space, and I can do it a little bit more fluidly and on the spot, but it would take me forever. I would have to redo the shot over and over again. It would take me a very long time, and then it would take me a long time to edit it. But now it's so much easier because I'm used to doing it every day. It's the only lead generation that I do.
So crazy.
Every day something is being produced.
Yeah. So wow. So no like open houses. I'm not open. Sorry. Like no home buyer courses or anything. Like
no.
Wow.
No. Nothing else.
And is it just because this is working so well, you don't even want to expand?
Well, I do want to expand, but it's because it has been working so well that I don't have a lot of time to expand. I am in the process of trying to create leverage in my business, more leverage than I already have. So that way I can expand. Absolutely. And I'm trying to figure out how to do other lead generation things that don't necessarily, that maybe my assistant can do the bulk of, versus me having to be the one to do all of it.
Right. Yeah, that's huge. Did you ever focus? I know you were like, okay, back to the beginning again. I'm going to be pink. I'm going to stand on these things. I'm going to look this way. Messaging wise, did you ever take the time to like define like, what is my value proposition, or what, or my messaging, what am I going to talk about, or who am I going to be? Like, did you ever take that time, or was it more organic?
It started to develop after I got a few clients. So I just put out general real estate information. And I also used my social media to network with other agents. And I think that's the big mark that is missed by a lot of people. I have a lot of agents that follow me, and those agents will send me referrals too. So after I got a few clients, I started to learn a little bit more about what it is they want to know, what confuses them, what questions I can answer for them, what value I can provide. And so I found that niche of, I was working with a ton of buyers, I was working with a ton of military families who were moving to the area. And so I talked about, the best practices for those people, and that kind of started to take off. And then my first year, my business was crazy busy. And then my second year was even busier than that. And so I started to figure out, well, a lot of agents want to know, how are you doing this?
Yeah.
So I started answering those questions online too. So, my target audience shifted from just buyers, just sellers, just military families, to my clientele plus agents.
And I love that, because when agents are so afraid to often niche down, when I'm like, but a smaller agent in a big market, they're like, I don't want to niche down. I want to talk to everybody. I'm like, but you'll never cut through, because the big players have got all that network already. You've got to harp in on one thing. And then I always try to use the example, and I say it all the time. People forget Nike started with a running shoe. Now they have basketball, CrossFit, you know what I mean? Football. It's like because you had to own something and then build on from there. It sounds like for you started with the military situation, and then you're like, oh, wait a second, but I can help other agents too.
Right.
And you're doing that in conjunction.
Well, when you're talking to everybody, you're really not talking to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You look like just every other agent on Instagram, unless you have a specific. And then when you do that, it allows you to become an expert in a certain field. So, no, you're not talking to 5,000 people, but maybe you're talking to a really concentrated group of people. And then all of those people and their friends who are also in that same group start to use you because they know you're really good at that one thing.
Yes.
And then you have consistent clientele, which is what you want.
Absolutely. And you said, I know you talked about when your daughter and then daughter, right? And then you were talking about you beginning to batch record content that was that audio, it was video.
Yeah, it was video.
Okay. Now, a lot of people hear that and they're like, oh, great, that's the easy way, batch. And that is easier than every day waking up. But what about that pre-process, that strategy? I'm interested in that part. Like, I think agents need to understand that as well. The strategy before turning on all the stuff. Yeah, what's that like for you?
So I don't really batch anymore. And I do think it's good for I think batching content is good for the agent who feels like they don't have time and isn't that good at it, isn't that acclimated with it, right? But if you're going to batch content, you also have to recognize that there are a few things that you're probably going to miss, right? Like if I do something off the cuff, then that system is me opening my Instagram and scrolling with purpose, right? Trying to find the trending sound that has under a certain amount of uses, trying to figure out what is popular right now. So that's what I do today. You know, the thought process behind it is let me find what resources on this app I can use to be most impactful and to talk to as many people as possible, you know, to have that reach. When you're batching stuff, it's kind of hard because what may be a trending sound on Sunday when you record the video may not be on Friday. But the system and the thought process behind it should be the same. You know, you should be thinking to yourself, when I put out this content, is it something that people will want to save or screenshot? Will they want to share it with someone else? What value am I providing? What solution am I giving to somebody's problem? And then you find a way to share that information in something that, in a form that is going to catch somebody's attention really well and be helpful ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like, because I think, and I teach this to clients, agents, that brand is, at this point, it's best built on social. And I get flack back from other people that are in other spaces in marketing, right? Because they're like, it's just, social media is one thing. It is. But I'm like, it's really powerful. And and it's like, that's like a strategy. Like I'm looking at 3 knives. I know the viewers can't see it. It's like, it's not that all those knives can't cut. It's that, like, I'm just saying that middle one is going to cut the fastest and the sharpest and not
it's
easiest,
so
but like
powerful.
it's so powerful.
I mean, people use social media every day to get famous.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people out there who are influencing other people on social media, and they're making millions of dollars a year.
Yeah.
Why can't you do that as a real estate agent? You totally can. I mean, I used to work 9 to 5, probably more than that, making $37,000 a year. We will gross $1 million this year in 3 years.
Yeah, it's great and amazing.
That's all built on social media.
Yeah, and being a good service provider. Once
True,
yes, but I get what you're saying. And for the people who don't understand, you have how many followers? You started the account in 2020.
Yeah.
3 years ago. How many followers do you have right now?
25,000.
And that's amazing. I just want people to hear that. So then I was just like, oh yeah, there's a girl. Anybody could know. This person has done it. That's why they're sitting right here with me. I have an interesting kind of hot topic is, which I've been thinking a lot about lately, is followers versus the value of the follower. So so
you
it's
don't have to have a ton of followers.
Right.
That's what I tell people.
I think people get obsessed with the follower count.
Doesn't matter.
And it's like, but you don't have to be an influencer in that way. Your business doesn't have to be influencer. Your business is real estate.
Right.
So you could have 1,000 followers. If that's super quality, influential people in your town that just keep referring you, that follower is all you really need.
Yeah.
Would you say that's true?
Yeah. So a lot of people will message me and say, I'm trying to figure out how to get more followers, or what content can I post to get more people to follow me. And I say, it doesn't matter how many people follow you. It matters if the people that do follow you are your game players, right?
Like, do you call them game
players?
Game players. Yeah.
Are these people that are actually going to hire you or actually send you business, actually engage with you? You can have 1 million followers, and if none of them are supporting your business in some way, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I have you always. I'm jumping around. I'm sorry, this is great. The ROI of social media, which is good because it goes right in hand with. Because some people be like, "Oh, I have 30,000 followers. I did it. I made it. I'm good." And I'm like, "What has that done for you? What are you getting? Nobody's engaging with this." To be completely honest, it might just be a pretty girl who's like, and I'm like, you haven't really built trust or authority. And they're like, "No, I did. I have 30,000 followers." I'm like, because you keep going, you're in a bikini on the beach every day, and then it just says real estate agent. Yeah, that's not the same as what you're doing. Right. So would you say that's fair?
Yeah, it is fair, right? Like it does. I could have 1,000 followers, like you said, and as long as those people are, supporting my business and making me money, that's what really matters. And you have to show up, one, authentically, and two, like you said, you have to be an authority in the space. You have to be somebody that people want to listen to. Yeah. That people want to take advice from. Your words have to matter, and the content that you produce has to be valuable enough for that to happen. Yeah. And the ROI is so good when you are doing it correctly.
And how do you, we could go there, but how do you personally measure the ROI of social media? Because a lot of agents do it a lot of different ways.
Yeah. So I track my business quite a bit, and I can easily go right into my business tracker and see how many clients did I get this year that closed directly from social media. And then I can also say, well, how many agents sent me business, and those agents found me on social media.
Ooh, and okay. Yep.
All of it. I mean, it's literally all of it. And I measure it that way because it's not like I started in my hometown and my uncle's cousin's friends hire me. Mm-hmm. That's not it. If you're hiring me, then it can all be played back, right? So last week I put $1.6 million worth of real estate under contract, and every single contract can be derived back to social media. Either they found me organically, or they were referred to me from an agent who found me, or a past client referred them to me, and that past client found me on social media.
And I think this is so important because I was studying some of the people I think, agents specifically, that I think are building really strong personal brands and strong social media followings. And that's Katie Day from Move Me to TX. I don't know if you've heard of her. Yeah. Glenda Baker, obviously, Sirhan. So I'm like, I follow these people, and I've like tried to find how are they or their teams identifying the ROI. And a lot of it is not. I think agents have a misconception of am I putting out content consistently, and then is somebody saying, can you help me sell my home, buy my home? Which I found that when they broke it down at the end of the year, they said only 10% of their clients were people who reached out saying, will you help me sell my home? 30% of that business that they're attributing to social media was other agents saying, some of them have never met them, saying, I just know that you're the person because I've been following you, and I trust to give my client or person I'm helping move to your city to you, even though you've never actually met. Have you seen that happen?
Every day. There was one day within the past month that I got 5 agent referrals from people who found me online.
And you never had met them?
Never. All the time.
I think that's the real. I'm saying this because I want to harp in on that, because I think agents go, nobody in my town is hitting me saying, help me buy my home. And I'm like, one, be patient. You started 3 weeks ago. 2, it's not going to come that way. No. It's not going to come that way.
Not always.
Not always. Yeah.
I've gotten over 60 agent referrals this year. And we are in August. Yeah. And that's crazy. I mean,
but that's insane. And I know you because you've been killing on social, you started to sell products around social, which you're more than happy to talk about, as we near the end here. I want people to know about your products. Right. But I think the key thing is you don't then go, oh, well, the referrals are coming from other agents. I'll just talk to agents. No, you're still talking to your niche, which is the base, the military, this situation. But that's the weird thing that people don't understand.
You have to, if you're going to have multiple different target audiences, I wouldn't recommend more than 2. But if you're going to have 2, which I do, you have to produce the content that is valuable to both, right? So I teach agents how to grow on social media and how to grow their business. I also teach veterans how to use their VA home loan. I also teach sellers how to best sell their property. The content that I put out is dual-sided, but that's because I create these courses that also make me income, and then I help people buy and sell real estate, which also makes me income.
Yep.
And I also think that even though part of my social media is directed towards agents, what it does is it teaches my clients that I'm the expert.
Yes.
That she's so good that other agents want to learn from her.
And you can back it up to prove it, right? You don't have 5 people, you have 5 posts and 10 followers, and you're going, buy my $500 course, right? Like, you're backing it up with what you've done.
Yes. I mean, I even have clients that it almost makes them think they're lucky to work with you. You know, and that's not really what I want, but it's almost like, you know, they say, gosh, we know you're so busy, you know, do you have time to take on another client? Yeah, I do. Or I have client, like just yesterday, I had a client that texted me and said, hey, I know that you're doing a lot of business. Are you willing to take on another seller? 100% all day long. And they think about me, and this person hasn't even closed yet, and they're already sending me referrals. But because you show up and you're able to put your money where your mouth is and consistently produce quality content, people look at you like, you know what, she really knows what she's doing. And I think people trust and believe that because you give them a reason to trust and believe that, and trust is like a form of currency.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, people will say, because let's just say you're getting, I'm just gonna use a number, 10,000 impressions, meaning you're in the feed, someone's seeing your content. Because I see you in the content every day when you come through in my feed. So an agent may be like, well, I paid, and we're going quickly into paid advertising, even on social, just strictly paid advertising versus organic, which I think they should actually work together, but we'll get there in a second. Agent will be like, oh yeah, I have a listing, or I have a billboard of my face or a picture of my face, and I got 10,000 impressions, and so did Taley. So we have the same thing. And I like to battle back by saying, or like combat that by saying, no. She's being felt, you're being seen. So seen and felt are 2 different things. Yeah. You have to be seen, someone has to see you to know that you exist. But I think the misconception is, which is the cashing it in, like, yeah, just someone seeing you is not the same way as people feeling you or being felt. I know, because I've met you in person and watching the content and seeing all your followers and you're engaging, you're being felt while someone else is just being seen. So how do you think about that when it comes to paid at reach versus real connection? You know?
I think engagement is much better than just views. I think if people are actively communicating with you in some way, saving what you're posting, sharing what you're posting, basically that's them telling you, wow, I really took something away from this. Yeah. Yesterday I posted a reel. It's just so easy. I was just walking through the airport and I grabbed a quick video of me literally just walking through the airport. I found a trending sound and I posted the reel that said, this is a trending sound, real estate agents, this is how you can use this. Tag me when you make your reel and I'll share it on my story. And there were lots of agents who did that. So what that tells me is people are taking my advice. Yes. So they look at me as somebody who they trust to learn from. Yes. Which I think that is felt. I think that means that they really capture what it is I'm trying to portray.
And I think because I'm just being honest, I think also one thing you don't, and that's why I asked you in the beginning, had you ever written down like your messaging? Because I think a part of brand, and you think about this with like, I can't think of like a brand who's like, think of like I don't want to knock anybody, but like a bougie clothing store. Right. Like that's like, we don't really talk to you. Like their personality is kind of standoffish versus a really helpful like doctor's office. They both have brands. I think one thing that is great about your brand, personal brand to me, is that not only do you have the education, not only are you willing to put it out consistently, you do it with the energy of, you're never condescending. Right. You're never like, I have the answers and you don't. And I think there's a lot of agents who are like, if I have to do the social media thing, fine, like I'm already the best, you know? Yeah. And it comes across, the energy.
Yeah. Although I think you're supposed to be very authentic and humble. I mean, the way I look at it is that I could have 25,000 followers all day long, but if nobody's buying a house for me, it doesn't matter how many followers I have. And so, you know, the impression that you make on people really matters. I just did a buyer consultation, and these people organically found me on Instagram, like were scrolling through reels and found me. And on the buyer consultation, she said, I'm so excited to work with you. I feel like we're already family. Damn. And I had literally had a 15-minute conversation with them. Or one time, this girl, I know she was following me for probably 3.5 months. And then she was like, okay, we're finally ready to buy a house. did a buyer consultation, and this is when the market was absolutely insane in our area, and there just so happened to be a new construction house that popped up the same day we did our buyer consultation, and they were already pre-approved, and they went under contract the same day that we did our buyer consultation. Dang. So within 12 hours of us speaking, they went under contract, and that was because they had followed me for so long that they had built this trust through the screen. And I still talk to them. To this day, we actually go out and eat lunch from time to time.
Awesome.
And so we were able to form this, online relationship, and then that, they send me clients all the time because they just trust me.
Yeah. When you, obviously you have a big personal brand, and to me, and it's not big, it's valuable. You have a valuable, potent, strong personal brand. Yeah. I don't care if it's not as much as whatever some other $1 million listing agent. It's strong to me, and I think to you as well. Beyond social media, though, you do other things. I don't want an agent to see this and be like, cool, I'll crush social. I think that's great. You should crush social. Yeah. But then that's it. Talk about what are the other components, and I call it the ecosystem around your personal brand that make you this person that agents are now seeing on the street and being like, hey, I know you. You're doing a good job.
So I do post on social media, but you can't just post on social media and expect to sell 100 houses, right? You have to provide good service outside of that. So I post on social media. I offer my time and teach other agents outside of social media too. And then as far as my clients go, we just have really good systems in place, and we treat them really well locally. So we take what we portray online and put it offline too. We have client events every single quarter. We have times where we're just kind of giving money away to our clients, giving away gift cards, just trying to support our local community and give back. And we don't want to just be social media superstars. We want to be local people in our community who can provide value outside of just selling somebody a house.
Absolutely.
And when we do sell you a house, we want to do a really good job. And because we know that we're good at it, we can confidently get on social media and talk about how good we are, which just reinforces the thought process to everybody else that we are the person that you should hire.
Right, because if you go on there and you start talking, it's good to be consistent. That's good social media etiquette. But then if you can't back it up, it's almost like it was for nothing, right? Because here come the Yelp reviews and the Google reviews, and they're not so good anymore.
Right. So you have to be just as good off screen as you are on screen, if not better.
Yeah. Man, I think we've covered a lot. Is there anything that you necessarily want to talk about that you haven't, or plugged yet, or talked about?
I don't think so.
Or anything that's been burning in your brain about where we're going with this agent branding, social media space world?
I just feel like if you're not using some sort of social media, then you're behind the 8 ball, and eventually you're going to be like a cricket in a bucket trying to catch up with everybody else, because it's not like people are using a phone book to find a real estate agent. They're using Google. So how much of that space are you taking up, and how effectively are you doing it?
And to that note, I want to talk a little bit about AI before we get out of here, just because it's relevant right now. But when you're going into those listing presentations, or you finally do get the listing, how is your personal brand showing up there?
Every step of the way. Everything we do is, like I said, we're pink everywhere. So when I drop off a listing presentation, it's in the same brand colors. We talk about
consistency.
We talk about the same things. We have the same image. All the open house signs that we have are all pink. The listing sign is pink. I even have a QR code on my listing signs that takes you to all of our websites and allows you to text me personally and say,
it's awesome.
So we use everything that you see online is going to match what you get from us when you hire us too.
And when they get there, even if they're a referral, do you feel like they're coming, and you even said some of them feel honored that you'd work with them?
Well, they trust me.
Yeah. Before you walk in the door, they're not like, I heard about you. Yeah, tell me what you're doing. They're kind of like, it's a different. Is it because the personal brand is strong? Is it a different kind of energy when you're walking in the building?
It's fun, and you feel validated, and you validate them, and vice versa, and it's fun, and it's genuine and authentic, and it's way better than walking into a room where you don't even know this person because they just clicked your name on Zillow or something. Right. It feels a little bit more personal.
It's warmer. Yeah.
And I really like that.
Do you have a scope of this week this is my almost like a regimen, like a trainer has like, okay, you're gonna do 6 crunches and 14 pull-ups, or like, do you do that per month or week, or like, how, is there some type of?
So for the first couple years, I was just kind of winging it, you know.
Yeah. When you felt it, you would do it?
Yeah, when I felt it, I would do it. I was all over the place. Whatever appointment I had, I just went to. I never had any specific time set for anything. I've really started to pivot from that and have more of a schedule. But
for the social media, you're talking
for social media, for lead gen, for my life,
just your life and business, okay, yeah.
But when I sat down at the end of last year and decided that I wanted to sell 100 homes this year, I did create a plan. You know, I created a lead generation plan where I said, okay, these are the 3 goals that I want to accomplish. This is how much money I want to make. This is how many agent referrals I want to get. This is whatever. And then I created different ways that I would go about accomplishing those goals. So I said, well, if I want to sell 100 houses, these are all the things that I'm going to do every single week to make sure that I do that. And if I want to get X amount of agent referrals, these are all the things I'm going to do to make sure that I do that. And I have that hanging up in my office, and I do that. You know, I stay in my database. I contact my past clients all the time. I mean, 4 times a year at minimum, I'm reaching out to them, asking them how things are going, you know. I post on social media every single day. Every day in some way, at least 6 times a week on my feed, but in stories every day.
So it sounds like you went from business goal, January 1st, you're like, this is business goal, let's start here. Then you're backing into, here are the activities in which I'm going to do, both as sales rep, but also as marketing. And that then divvies in most of that marketing bucket or pie, 90% or 80% goes to the social media. Then that backs into, this is important for agents to hear, because I think I'm just going to do what I feel like, which is, again, to start. Yes, do that to start. But now look at you. You're building your business.
You have to be strategic.
You're strategic. And so now it's okay, I want to do 6 posts a week. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I just want to be in your feed every day. Like, that's the way I look at it.
365.
I don't want you to ever forget about me.
Damn. 7 days. And now do you divvy that up between reels, videos, photos? You don't do a pod. Do you do a podcast?
I don't do a podcast, but I am.
Not that you should. I'm just saying. You know.
I'm like 97% video. I feel like video has such a large reach. When I look at my insights, I am reaching a significant amount of people through video. So I do video every day, like all the time.
And your primary social media vehicles, are you doing it all across the board? Are you focusing on
TikTok, and then my Instagram feeds into my Facebook.
Those 3 are your holy trinity right there.
Right now,
and lastly, for those that I know AI, because I hear some agents that are like, great, AI's here. I'm just gonna write this in, boom, it's right here. I repost it, and now I don't have to do what Taley's doing and be like this, like authentic, this authentic authority. I can just. How do you feel about AI, and what would you say to agents that feel like, great, I can just mail it in now?
I think AI is valuable. I think it's very valuable. I don't copy and paste AI. I use AI for my listing captions, like my descriptions. I always edit them and make them sound a little bit more like me. I will use AI to give me a base, and then I make it sound like Taley. And I don't do it all the time. You know, when I'm like brain dead and I can't think of anything else, but I know that I need to put out content, I will go into ChatGPT and say, you know, give me a 5-sentence Instagram caption with a millennial tone of voice that is targeted at whatever.
You can get that granular.
You can get very, very specific. And it does a really good job. And then I'll go in and I'll tweak it how I need to, but not often. But I always want it to sound like me. But so that's why when I use ChatGPT, I get very, like, I don't just say, give me an Instagram caption about selling a house. I say, give me an Instagram caption in this tone of voice. This is the target audience.
This is a gem right here.
And those things make it sound a whole lot like you. And then you just got to go in there and make sure that it really does.
And you take the time to do that. You try, when you do it, you go in there and you start tweaking that. And that goes out in an audio.
That would be the caption.
But
everything I say is me. I do not create scripts. I don't create like a video script on ChatGPT. But I mean, you could. I mean, you could.
And are you still doing static photo imagery as well?
Sometimes, yeah.
Are you doing like a lifestyle photo shoot like once a quarter? Or
I do. I try to get photos done at least once a quarter.
Awesome.
And so sometimes I will just post a photo of me, and then the impactful part is in the caption.
Got it. Yep.
And sometimes those do get a lot of traction too, but I do like to stick with video because I feel like it's way more shareable.
Absolutely. And it sounds like the algorithm obviously is pushing in that direction. But if someone wasn't comfortable on camera, would you suggest there's only 3 ways to communicate: the photo, the written word, or the video, which encompasses all 3.
Right.
Would you suggest if they're not comfortable with video that they just do nothing?
Start with a still pose, but video doesn't necessarily mean you have to be on camera. I could go to a really nice model home and take a video of the kitchen, and then I could post the video with words on top of it. So you don't necessarily have
a little cheat code. Not cheat code, but
you don't gotta be on camera talking. So, but eventually you do need to show your face.
This has been awesome. Last thing I want to say, and then I want you to plug your products for sure, because I think I've purchased them with my own money, and I think they're great. The one thing you would tell agents right now, like the number one takeaway around how to build a market-leading personal brand, so for whatever market they're in, or market segment of market, empty nesters or military, and then one big takeaway for their social media.
So I think that you need to figure out what your value proposition is and what your brand representation is, right? So who do you want to show up as every day, and what do you want that to look like visually? And you also need to figure out what problems you're going to solve for people, and that is your value proposition. So, first time home buyers.
Well, let's say I help people buy and sell. Yeah. Okay, done, right? No, exactly.
No, it needs to be very specific. Are you working with first time home buyers that maybe don't have a lot of money, and you've got to teach them how to buy with little cash? Are you helping people who are trying to upsize into their next luxury home, or people who really want to be by the lake, or whatever the case may be? So you've got to figure out your visual brand, and then you've got to figure out what your value proposition is within that, mesh the two, and show up every single day as the expert in that space and as you perpetuate yourself. And then if you do that consistently, eventually you will find the traction. And I also think it's important for agents who are just looking to grow in general to surround themselves with people that are who they want to be and doing the things they want to do, who are higher and better and above them, and learn from them. And you are who you surround yourself with, so take the time to network and engage with other people who are better than you, and
love that,
and learn from them.
Yeah, and that goes for the personal brand and the social media? That's
absolutely.
Both? Yeah.
100%. Look and find people that you admire, and then network with them on a regular basis. And those people will help you develop into the person that is going to be the most impactful.
I love that.
Business-wise and it'll help you personally too.
Love that.
For sure.
Any last notes? Good to go?
No, I'm good.
Well, thank you so much. I'm just happy you came on here. Congrats on all the success, and I'm sure you're just going to continue to keep blowing up.
Try. Thank you so much.
No problem.